is a percentage of men who genuinely want to see the economy get worse and there to be fewer jobs in America if it would mean they would have access to women. More men than you probably realize yearn for a time where women had to partner with men out of desperation for our survival because we didn't have any economic resources of our own. You'd think it would be embarrassing to these men that they want women to be impoverished and desperate because maybe a desperate woman would be willing to date them. But these people are loud and proud on Twitter. Forcing women back into the home is a primary goal of this far-right political movement that we're seeing in America right now. Every day I see men online advocating to repeal the 19th Amendment so that women can't vote. They're talking about how women ruined the workplace. They don't want women to make their own money. This is an ideology that is woven throughout the conservative movement, and these are ideas that are infecting the minds of young boys right now. Red pill content, largely watched by young conservative men, preaches this kind of thing. I believe that women's autonomy is seriously at stake in every single election, and we would be foolish to not take this seriously.
All right. So you guys all saw that. This young lady is talking about a very real issue in the red pill space. She's essentially talking about these guys who are in the red pill and they want to see, essentially they want to see women fail. They think that if the economy collapses, that women are going to come back to them and those women are going to have to be dependent on them. And then that's when they're going to be able to, get a woman, get a wife and do all of that. Now, I've talked about this before on several other videos. This is red pill loser stuff, right? This is one of the reasons why the red pill is dying, because the red pill has become a rest haven for loser men. If you guys don't know, like the red pill spans decades, but the red pill as we know it really started picking up in like 2011 with like comedians like Patrice O'Neal and stuff like that. And then, there were people like Tom Likas who had like public access talk shows, stuff like that, stuff on the radio. And then it kind of morphed into something a little bit more of what we know today, in like 2015 to 2017. Then around 2017, you start seeing people like Kevin Samuels. He popped on the scene, doing videos in his car. You see people like Fresh and Fit, like 2017, they took off. They went all the way off. Around 2018, there was a big ban wave. I think one of the MRAs got on a talk show with somebody. They got invited on a talk show. You know how talk shows do. They made them look bad, and then they started banning all the red pill content. Then 2019, they come back, and that's when Kevin Samuels really, really took off. He hits like 1 million followers overnight because he called some woman average at best. And then right after that, Fresh and Fit really took off. Myron started doing the whole kicking women out thing. And so, you guys know somewhat the history of the red pill. Andrew Tate came not too long after that, just pearly things. People started hitting 1 million here and there. Throughout all of this, there's always been this sentiment that women are going to fall from their position. And then that's when they're going to be humbled and they're going to have to crawl back to men. If you guys remember back in like 2019 or 2020, Kevin Samuels literally went mega viral for saying winter is coming. Like that was his whole thing. Like he did a stream on it. It became like a major talking point because there was talk that OnlyFans was going to get banned. Like there was talk that it was going to get demonetized, that it was going to get banned and all of this stuff. And then they actually tried to do it. Like they actually passed some sort of law, or like they did something to mess it up, and then it came right back, right? So people were taking their victory laps talking about, oh, y'all gonna be working at Wendy's, y'all gonna be working at Subway, and then it came right back. And now OnlyFans is more lucrative than like the NFL. Like it is super lucrative. Like it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. So men have always sought to see women fail. And one of the biggest things is they want to see women fail because they want to laugh, obviously, because they don't qualify for these women. Like they can't get these girls, right? When these men, a lot of the red pill men, when they were in high school, they couldn't get the girl. They couldn't go to homecoming. They couldn't go to prom, right? They go to a party and none of the women want to dance with them. None of the women want to talk with them. The whole nine. A lot of these guys are lifelong losers, and right, watching women fail is one of their pastimes. They like to see women get their comeuppance. And then another thing is they think that if women fall from the sky, fall from their lofty positions, that's when they're going to be able to qualify for these women. So they inherently know they don't qualify for the women. They think that the women are all out there sleeping with Chad and Tyrone and just throwing their bodies around, and that when the economy gets real, real bad, that's when the regular guy gets to step in. So rather than actually going out there and making themselves something that a woman would want, these guys sit back and pray for that woman to fall. And this is what this woman is essentially talking about. And this is one of those things where I'll always tell you, the red pill is a point of failure at this current juncture in time. The red pill was never supposed to be a rest haven. It was supposed to be a pit stop, a rest stop, a gas station. You are traveling through life. You are lost. You are on your way. You're supposed to be on your way to a city called success, but you got lost along the way for this reason, for that reason. You pull off at this giant gas station called the Red Pill, and you're supposed to gas up. You're supposed to learn the maps. You're supposed to learn the routes. You're supposed to learn what's going to trip you up on that road. You're supposed to learn how the tolls work. You're supposed to learn how the turnpike works, how the cops are going to do, right? This is proverbial. This is all metaphorical. You're supposed to learn the ins and outs of the road that's going to take you to success. Then you're supposed to gas up, get back on the road, and do accordingly, right? Stop every so often at the next red pill station, but then get back on the road. It's become more of a rest haven where these guys just come, they hate on women, they talk crazy about women, they say ridiculous stuff, and then they just wait for women to fail. And it's like this woman said, these people don't think that it's pathetic for them to wait for a woman to fail to get her as a girlfriend or a wife. Like, what does that really even look like? Do you think this woman is just going to come back to you with, bags in hand, soaking and drenched in the rain? She's going to knock on your door and be like, oh, I was wrong. I should have stayed with you the whole time. And then you're just going to take her back? Or like, there's some fantasy in a lot of these red pill guys' head that women are going to reach economic strife. They're going to lose their money. They're going to get evicted or something. And then that's when these women are going to say, you know what? I've sinned against the regular man and against God. And it's time for me to go and be a traditional woman. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put on my apron and I'm going to cook pies and I'm going to bear some man's kids and I'm going to have lots of sex with him and I'm going to show him how remorseful I am for giving away my best years to Chad and Tyrone. And I'm going to make a great life from here on out. That's not what's going to happen. Like, that is not what's going to happen. Women are not going to fall from on high or from where they're at. And it's not even saying that they're winning in life. It's just simply saying that the men who want women to fail, they're losers. The red pill is full of losers who are not seeking to win. The red pill men are not taking action in their real life to become winners. The red pill men, the people who watch Fresh and Fit, they aren't doing anything to get more money. None of these guys are doing anything to level up. Like, they'll sit there and they'll watch Coach Greg Adams talk about boss up. I watch him. They'll sit there and they'll watch Kevin Samuels talk about level up. They'll sit there and they'll watch a Fresh and Fit tell them that they need to do more and they need to get more money, muscles, game, and frame and all of that. And out of all of that, the only thing they'll do is go to the gym. They'll go to the gym, but they won't go do anything to get more money, right? Like I'll always say, what are you doing today to get even one more dollar that you weren't scheduled to make? If you make X amount of dollars at your job, do you have any plan within 24 hours, within 36 hours, 48 hours, 3 days a week? Do you have any plan to make even $1 more than what you were scheduled to make? That's where hustling begins. That's where entrepreneurship begins. That's where leveling up begins. But these guys aren't doing that because they're losers. So you got to think about it. If that woman falls from wherever she's at, she's chasing Chad, she's chasing Tyrone, even if she was going to get with you, why would she get with you when you haven't even put yourself in a position to catch her? Why would she go from up here to struggling with you when she can struggle with a guy who has a little bit more? It's all about positioning, and most of these guys have not positioned themselves. But we're not done. I want to prove this because there's more red pill dorks popping up day after day.
Go to any Christian house church or church here in the United States, there's women pastors, everyone is LGBT friendly. 500 years ago, women weren't even allowed to speak in a church.
So you do admit that it was women, shut up, don't do anything?
Yeah, I do. Well, it still should be.
It still should be?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, it's not like women should never talk, but yeah, it still should be. Women should not have the same amount of voice and power that they do.
Here's a question for you. I actually want to hear what you have to say about this. If for the entirety of human history, it was women taking more of a
secondary role that allowed us to even get to this point. And really only the past 80 or so years post-World War II, with the influence of international Jewry, where women are given more of a voice. And we've entered to this new society where it's non-sustainable, family structure is falling apart, and that coincides perfectly with women having a voice. Which one is more likely to be the correct answer? One model that lasted for thousands of years that got us to this point versus one that's about 80 years old that's and is already driving us to extinction.
Yeah,
that's like a complete disaster. Women aren't having kids. Women are on antidepressants more than they've ever been. Women aren't getting married.
I want to say something to you because some people, I appreciate the fact that you listen. Some people will hear this and they'll think, oh, you hate women or you just want to oppress them. It's actually the opposite. I think that women were liberated by nature and they've been enslaved by modernity, because in the past 100 years or so, women have never been more miserable. It's actually quite sad to me. The more rights that they've been afforded, the more sad they become.
Okay, so I'm not sure who these two are. They popped up on my For You page a couple days ago, and I checked out their page. They kind of are like, they're like the street interview people. They do a lot of interviews with people who are either red pill adjacent, manosphere adjacent. They do stuff with women, black people, this people, that people. I don't actually, I have to check out some more of their content. I don't actually know what they're all about, but they don't seem to be too bombastic or racist or this or that. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt as to whether or not they're dweebs. But anybody who comes into this red pill space talking about women need to go back to traditionalism, I'm going to kind of sort of call you a dork. I'm going to directly call you a dork. I just personally believe that all of these guys are coming in. They want women to go backwards, but men aren't going forward. Like, all of these men complain about immigration. All of these men complain about the economy, but you're not fighting against, I'm not even going to say fighting against immigration. You're not fighting to beat the immigrants to the job. You're not fighting to get on the internet and make the best content. You're not doing anything to make more money to where women would want to choose you and submit to you. Like these guys, they're using very old talking points. They're talking about how women have been enslaved by modernity and how they're, on antidepressants and how they're not supposed to have a voice in the church and all of this and all of that. And I'm not denying any of it because it's all true. But these are old talking points. These talking points blew people's minds back in 2017, 2018, right? I remember people going mega viral talking about the amount of women who were on antidepressants. That was earth shattering in 2018. In 2019, when people were talking about how, women are slaves to feminism and how, the modern world has destroyed women and all that, when everything these guys just said was said in 2019, and people were gaining 10,000 followers a week talking these talking points on their podcasts. And they got even more followers during COVID. We are in 2025 and people are still coming into this space saying what was said 8 years ago. It's like, congratulations. You discovered 2017, but we don't care. Are you the kind of man that she would submit to? Like, you're talking about this woman needs to be traditional, but are you a traditional man? A traditional man pays all the bills. And he probably does complain about it because traditionally men always bitch and moan. But the point is, traditionally, these men who had these housewives, bro, they went out and they were working 12-hour days. Like, there's this idea that the man only worked 8 hours a day. It's like, no, if we're talking about tradition, we have to look past the 1950s to 1960s. Like, we can't just take that, 10, 15, 20 year snapshot. People only want to look at, the years between 1945 and 1965, maybe the 70s. So you want to take 20 to 25 years and say that's traditionalism. You don't want to look at the 30s when men were working 16 hours a day on railroads, on coal mines. They were construction workers and all of that. These people were working and slaving themselves to the bone. And they didn't have no weekend. The weekend didn't even exist until the 40s. That's what a lot of these men don't want to look at. So if you really want to go back to traditionalism, you got to go back to the 1920s. You got to go back to the 1930s where everybody was scraping and scrambling and there was no weekend, and you worked 6 days a week, 18 hours a day. Well, not probably 18, but 12. You were working all day. Right. So you can't tell the women, hey, give up everything that brings you joy, give up all of the opportunities that you have and get back in this house and have my kids and bake that pie and wash my drawers but then you're not going to do the same thing. You have to be willing to kill yourself, essentially, to provide this woman a life where she doesn't have to work, because that's what the world requires. We live in the modern era. We're not going back to the 50s, not politically, not economically, not socially. So if you want that in any meaningful measure, you have to provide it for yourself. So in 2025, going on 2026, you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to work like a Hebrew slave. You are going to have to work like a slave to provide that woman any semblance of a traditional life, such that she's going to want to submit to you and shut up and just have your kids and give you sex all the time. And even still, that's not going to happen, because that was never what it was. Them women in the 50s were miserable. Those housewives were miserable because they were at home and they were bored and they had no stimulation. Like, there was nothing except them and the kids. So women aren't going back to that. I could do a whole stream on what the 50s was really like, or I could do a whole video on what the 50s were really like. I probably will at some point in time, not right now. But just understand, this is why I call the red pill guys dorks. I call them dweebs. The guys coming into this space now, they're losers because they don't have any, they have no hustle, they have no ambition. You're just repeating talking points. What are you doing to boss up, to level up, to get more money, to where a woman wants to submit? You're not doing anything. You're just crying. And a woman is not going to submit to a weak man. They're just not going to do it. It is what it is.